Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to week 3 of Making a Band Movies. I'm here, Zack's here, and more importantly, we have a special guest. Chance Ellison is here. How you doing, Chance?
I'm good, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That sounded like such fake game show energy. And Chance Ellison is here.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back.
Come on down.
Win some money. All right, now we've finished goofing up enough. Zack is drinking and is in the new room today, looking casual.
Hey, there's going to be a lot less alcohol content drank on the show. I have 2 beers left, and after that, I'm drinking 6 ounces a day until Christmas because I bought a advent calendar beer thing, and it was expensive. I'm not buying more beer than that. I have to share with my wife.
So you're getting 3 ounces of beer a day, basically.
No, it's 12-ounce can.
Oh, okay, I understand.
But you know nothing about beer. What 6-ounce cans are you drinking?
I don't know. You just said 6 ounces. I assumed that it was a bizarre. It's also an advent calendar. If anything is going to have a bizarrely shaped beer can, it would be an advent calendar of beer.
That's true.
But yeah.
But let us get going with our favorite intro segment, Mr. Zack Ford. What is the last movie you logged on Letterboxd?
So I recently watched the documentary available on Netflix called Rising Phoenix. It is about the Paralympics. I think it starts talking about Paralympics in 2011, or not 2011, 2012, I believe, was where it was in London, which I actually was in London during that time. I didn't go to the games. I just happened to be there. So I felt some connections in general. I also was on the plane with the Australian Paralympic team on their way to Rio. So there was, I think maybe that adds some connection. I just been around the para athletes. I wanted to hear their stories. And it is just going through interviewing some of the Paralympic superstars from around the world, sharing their stories and, how important their ability to play and perform in these games is to them. And also, they do make a good point in how their stories can be important to us to open our minds to new things. And it definitely does a great job at making you want to watch the Paralympics and the excitement, because it does, everyone loves the Olympics because of the stories attached. That's mostly why people tune into them, and they root for athletes they never heard of because you get attached to their stories. And, there's no one that you're more able to, fall in love with in the short term than a lot of these athletes that they exhibit in this movie, their passion and their strength of what they overcame. At the beginning, it kind of looks like a Nike commercial, and it took a while for me to get past it. But once they start really, you start hearing from the athletes, it grabs your heart. I'm not gonna lie, cried watching someone win. It was a national game, so I recommend it. It's a good watch.
All right. I feel like I did not know about this before. I don't think Chance knew about this before either.
No, I mean I heard vaguely about it, but what you're saying is it's a better Special Olympics movie than The Ringer. Yes?
Paralympics, buddy, not Special Olympics.
I'm sorry, Paralympics.
There's too many Olympics.
There's too many Olympics.
This is for the physically disabled.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got too many. Gotta categorize them better.
Yeah. Why did John not make that sequel?
Yeah, because the Paralympics is always directly after the Olympics, so it's the next 2 weeks right after the Olympics happens. In the same
that's like the guy who followed Martin Luther King after his speech in Washington. No one knows who that was.
If you all want to join my wheelchair rugby fit fantasy league, I'll be starting that next week.
Quad rugby, fuck yes. First round pick, Jason Street.
Yep, absolutely. Mr. Ellison, what is the last movie you logged on Letterboxd?
I'm going to be talking about a movie that's less sophisticated than Zach's pick. My last movie I logged was, as of this point, was Cincinnati Game to Kill For. Since I'm in the middle of preparing for a match I have this December. But yeah, this one I had seen bits and pieces of in 2014 when it came out, but I hadn't seen the full movie, which is weird because I love the original Sin City. It's one of my favorite comic movies of all time, top 10. I'm not gonna lie, I thoroughly love that film. This one, I think everyone can agree on a few things. One, it would have done much better had it come out not 10 plus years after the first. I think it's around 9, not mistaken. Because that adds up. I think it would have done better if it had not come out 9 years after the first. And it's not nearly as good as the first, but I do think it's still fun. I think the world is still creative. I think Robert Rodriguez still does a good job of translating that style. It's clearly up budget, but not enough to the point where like it feels like there's no heart, because Robert Rodriguez is a dude. Look, whether it's not a movie turning out good, I respect him as a filmmaker because he's a dude who puts in work. Like the stuff that he can do just in his garage over a weekend is fucking stellar. So I still think I like that look. I think that I like that I like Mickey Rourke as Marv. He looks a little different. That's because Mickey Rourke looks a little different than he did in 2004. So I was just sick. So yeah, that's weird. But I think the new additions to the cast are really good. I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I think is the best part of the movie by far. I think that he's a great actor. I think his entire arc is really captivating. He gets two variants in the whole thing. So I think he's really good in what he has to do. Really not the actual Dame to Kill For is the part I really check out in the movie. I think it's a little too long. It's also kind of weird because at a certain point, because like Josh Brolin plays Dwight, which is the same character that Clive Owen played in the original, and like there's a certain point in the vignettes where like he changes his face and he's got like a Clive Owen wig on, so he's supposed to be Clive Owen at that point, but it's really fucking weird because he still like looks and sounds like Josh Brolin. Yeah, it's odd. But I like the newer characters. Like I like Eva Green, reminding again why she is one of my wives in real life. Yeah, I love Eva Green. I think that I like seeing Powers Booth because I love Powers Booth as an actor. I think he's really good at Senator Rourke. It gets really hard to follow because like when you watch since the first Sin City and this one, you're like, I have no idea where anything takes place in this timeline anymore. But yeah, I think it's a decent watch, especially like if you really like the first Sin City a lot, like I did. I would say check it out. I think you'll watch and have a good time.
If you're confused about the timeline, then what do you think you're watching? Like it doesn't matter. It's just stories within the world.
Well, no, but also it's like it's hard to place like what takes. It changed my perception of the timeline with Sin City because I thought I knew when things took place, and I watched it and I'm like, okay, maybe not. Maybe I was wrong.
I like the idea.
Also, what the fuck was Clive Owen doing? Why couldn't they?
I don't know what he was doing. I don't know why he was. I don't know why he was stupid.
Poor guy. He has a lost career. I miss him.
I miss Clive Owen. I watched Gemini Man for him. No, I didn't. But I watched it.
Yeah, I'm a support group for people who watch Gemini Man because of Clive Owen, not because of Will Smith.
I did watch it for Big Willie versus the Fresh Prince, but Clive Owen being there was cool too.
That is very interesting. That is also like they do not look remotely similar.
They do not look, act, or sound
especially. I think they look more similar than they sound. They sound miles apart. So that is a weird one. I have never seen a Sin City movie. So that is it.
Yeah, the first one I think is excellent. But I also like grew up reading and loving Frank Miller comics, and it's just so it really plays to me. I'd be very curious to see what you think about Sin City.
It's one of those things that like it's always right there on the list of things to watch. Right. Just for some reason never ends up being the thing that gets picked to be watched. It'll happen at some point, probably.
When we do Stripper Month, which I know is probably on your brainstorm list, you can watch Sin City. There's a stripper in there, right?
Sexy. Oh yeah, Nancy. Jessica Alba, she's a stripper.
Okay, thank you.
What else is the slate for Stripper Month? Magic Mike.
Yeah,
good one.
And what else?
Yeah.
One of the Hangover movies. What
about like the full Monty? We gotta switch it up.
Flash
Dance is not a stripper, is she?
Yeah, she is.
No. This is when we get to the. This is when we get into the important discussion of what's the difference between a stripper and an erotic dancer, and our show just goes to hell.
We didn't talk Magic Mike, of course.
You said that one.
I said Magic Mike. Okay. I love Magic Mike. Magic Mike is great.
I haven't seen Magic Mike.
Magic Mike is very good.
See, Stripper Month. We need to do it so I can see Magic Mike and you can see Sin City.
All right, the last movie I watched on Letterboxd is, I think, even less of value than the two you have talked about, which is I watched the Robert Zemeckis 2009 A Christmas Carol, which is the end of Robert Zemeckis' really bad run of computer animated movies. This is not as bad as Polar Express, which is downright horrifying.
Yeah,
it's horrifying. Polar Express isn't bad; it's just scary to look at.
No, Polar Express is a nightmare, and it is also
the eyes.
Bad story-wise. The story is nuts. I can talk 5 hours about Polar Express and how shitty of a movie that is. So we're not going to start that.
We're not going to do that. This is not as bad as Polar Express. Also, probably not as good as Beowulf. I think Beowulf is slightly better. But
look, if Jim, not Jim Carrey, if what's his nuts, Ebenezer Scrooge just bust out like a fucking monster and just screamed out his name, then that would be the best movie of the Robert
I think
scary CGI.
why Christmas Carol is not better than Beowulf is because there's not enough hiding penis behind random torches and hanging lights. Beowulf is 50% trying to hide that dick.
It is a lot of hiding nudity. A lot of like almost nudity. That is really the entire movie. But the thing with the Christmas Carol is, one, it looks terrible. I don't know who told Robert Zemeckis this was a good idea. I don't know who hit him in the back of the head after the first one was like, stop doing this. This is a terrible, horrific looking way to make movies. It is, you're making a Christmas Carol, which has been made so many times, and you make a movie that is so devoid of anything interesting that it makes you question why he made the Christmas Carol in the first place. He has no take on this movie. He has a cast full of famous people. You can barely tell the famous people in this. Like, I don't know if I could tell you that Jim Carrey played the lead in this movie unless I knew that going in. It could have been anyone. You could have cast. I think you could have cast a bunch of different people.
Okay, fair enough.
And it wouldn't have mattered.
I understand.
But you know it's Jim Carrey when you're watching it. Like he
you do
give unrecognizable performances.
Oh, you do. But like, you could have cast 25 different people, and I don't think it would have made a difference to this character. I don't think really anyone
would have made it better because Jim Carrey is a bad actor and he takes over a movie.
I don't love Jim Carrey, but I can't take a shot at him for this movie. I don't think anyone could have done well behind all the computer animation and just the nothingness of this movie. It's like, how do you make the 37th rendition of A Christmas Carol and have nothing new to say or do besides the fact that you're doing it in a disturbing and weird looking computer animated style?
I will argue that there's one interesting take that has one interesting thing it does, which I did really enjoy the like voyeuristic approach to the Ghost of Christmas Present, where they're like floating in the house and you're just like looking down on it through the like see-through transparent floor. That's definitely a very different take. It did make it seem more like they were like peeping tops peeping on people's Christmas.
There you go.
I haven't seen that one since I haven't seen it since a kid. Like when I was like rented it on DVD, so from Redbox, of all places. So
the good place.
The good place. Yeah, I don't have very many memories of that Christmas Carol. I've only seen it the one time, so it clearly shows it didn't make a very big impression with me.
It's not very memorable.
Great cast.
I think it's only better than Polar Express because it is the Christmas Carol. Because it has this classic Dickens tale, and there's never going to be a disastrous version of that.
There is something that you appreciate in A Christmas Carol and Beowulf, the fact that there's a little bit of fanciful elements to these movies, more with Beowulf than there is with The Christmas Carol. But because of the fantastical elements, it is a little bit less creepy. Polar Express is really trying to be like real kids on a train, and that is terrifying because it looks really bad. At least in Beowulf, it's like, okay, there's some monsters and some creatures and some demons. Although that movie pisses me off, and I'm going on a tangent. That movie pisses me off because you should have just made that movie with a live-action cast. That cast should be the live-action version of it. It's like, why did you have to do a computer-animated version of Anthony Hopkins as the king? You could have just made Anthony Hopkins be the king.
I'm pretty sure it was computer-generated because Russell Crowe said no, so they had to get rid of Winston.
I feel like they could have gotten Gerard or somebody.
Or Gerard Butler. Whoever the fuck Bale is supposed to look like, because he does not look. He's the only one who doesn't look like his actor.
It's true. It's true.
That was like prime Gerard Butler time too. That was like right at 300. It was the year after, I think.
Yeah.
You should have got him.
Anyways,
the scariest thing of all three of these movies, though, isn't Christmas Carol. That's Gary Oldman. Cratchit. It's like my nightmare.
Oh.
He's like a little troll.
Doesn't he have
Why
like
did they make him so short?
Chin strap beard.
It's a weird. It's like a weird decision.
3'6", and it's terrifying.
Kind of think about it. I think I've seen the Looney Tunes Bah Humduck more than I've seen that Christmas Carol.
I think I've seen Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol more than I've seen. Or I would watch it 10 times before I had to watch this.
We can all just agree we should watch the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yes,
because that's the best one.
Agreed.
And Mr. Magoo. Okay.
And Mr. Magoo. And Bah Humduck.
And like 47 other versions before we watched
Hey.
the
I've heard the Guy Pearce one for FX is really good.
All right,
When
watch
me
that
and
then.
Lucas are inevitably in our 35th year of this podcast, we will do Christmas Carol month in
We already
February.
we already tried to do Dickens month, and we ran out of
We could have just made
we
it
ran out of
Christmas
adaptations to do.
How did you run out of Dickens adaptations?
The problem is
not that many
they're all three
good
books.
ones.
They're all three books. Every adaptation is Great Expectations, Oliver, Christmas Carol, or Copperfield. Actually, Copperfield's mostly 4 books. Actually, Copperfield is mostly series. Zack refused to watch.
No, it's just half of them are David Lean movies too.
That's not a problem with it. All right, let us continue on to our main discussion, which is, of course, the wonderful film School of Rock. I'm going to give our guest the first take. Chance, School of Rock, what makes this movie amazing?
A lot of things, actually. I think that it comes down to, first of all, I think Linklater has a great sense of youth as far as like maturity goes. Like that's the thing he touched on a lot of his other movies. I think touched on in a lot of his movies still. I think that he's the main reason one of the main reasons this thing worked. I think he has a great perspective. I think like his love of music really shines through in this movie. I think that he does a great job of like tackling like the idea of getting older and is like shifting your dreams, like making your dreams a reality, but not in the way that you expect. I think that it's a great moral. I think that it's incredibly rewatchable. I used to watch this movie a ton when I was a kid. I think it's breezy. I think that it's a great. I think it's a really easy watch. I think it's really quotable. It has a lot of lines I really remember about it. I think there's a lot of really great music sequence, a lot of great concert sequences, and I think overall, Jack Black is stellar in this film.
Yeah.
I do want to touch quickly on the Linklater-ness before it gets too buried.
Yes.
I think one of his greatest strengths as a director that really comes through in this movie is his ability with chemistry of actors and performers. I think it's carried throughout films, and that's like key to this movie working, is making, really is an asshole person that Jack Black is playing, and selfish, making that work with these like prep school kids, and it comes off real endearing and real charming, and his ability to make some people unlikable have unlikable traits but still come off as real human, sympathetic and charming is also very important with Jack Black, but also I think with like Miranda Cosgrove, which I want to talk about that character and the difference of watching it as a 14-year-old to watch it now. But she can be like such an annoying goody two shoes character, but he knows when to
tone it back
and humanize that character, and she really becomes a lovely 12-year-old or a 10-year-old.
Well, it's kind of the Linklater thing is always that he has realistic people as his characters. Like these are all, none of these people are perfect. They all have flaws. They all have weird annoyances. They all have insecurities and feelings. And he just does a really good job letting them kind of be multidimensional people. Like Miranda Cosgrove is kind of annoying, but you also kind of understand why she's like that, and like you understand like her parents, and like they kind of try to give you information about why everybody is the way they are. Even Jack Black is not a terrible person. Like you could play him as a terrible person, and he does have a lot of traits that are not necessarily positive. But you also have to understand that he is really passionate about this one thing, and when he is able to demonstrate his passion towards music to the kids and show that to them, you kind of like even his process of teaching the music is very much like his character changing as he goes from the beginning. He is so focused on himself, but as he goes, he really wants to share this passion he has with them, and you watch him become less focused on himself as the movie goes on, as he just kind of brings everybody into it. And even just the way like he interacts with the kids, with like he assigns tasks and then they don't like the tasks, and he never like, you could have this character belittle people or just like tell them to shut up and do their job, but he's always trying to like make it work. And like that is a way in a way that feels very actually like really good teachery, even though he's not a teacher, is this like ability to be like try to make everything work, and like, yeah, I know you don't want to do this, can you do this? And it's like even like this, the changes are so small, but they mean so much to the kids who are requesting them to happen.
because there's a lack of judgment in that treatment of the kids too. Like he's not assuming that any kid should be in a different position or can't do this. Like I would say, low league baseball coaches play way too much on judgmentalness. They have a lot of issues with low league baseball coaches. They see a little chubby kid, they just assume he can't pitch. Give him a chance. But Jack Black had a very open mindedness to every kid within there and treats them with that proper respectful teacher gloves. I will say that my perspective of this movie, it was very unique watching it. Last time I saw it, I was probably 15, 14, and now watching it from a teacher perspective is brought a whole new light to it. Because it is some of these characters, as I said, as a 14-year-old, Miranda Costco is like the try hard too much, and I saw her as like a villain as a kid, and now I see this as like a teacher. I'm like, man, like I need every student just to be her, and my life would be so easy.
Yeah, but I think on that note, it would have been so easy, like make her the villain of the movie, make her someone that doesn't agree with everything that's going on in the class. But they don't. They put her in a role where she would belong in a rock band, because they point out that she would be a really good manager for music or just anything in general, because she has that kind of mindsets. And yeah, she's really good in this movie.
You could also make Joan Cusack the villain. Like you very easily could make that character the villain. But they do a really good job of Jack Black kind of humanizes her by trying to talk to her. And even they turn the joke about when she got drunk and started singing the song into like a humanizing aspect to her when he takes her to the bar and they have a conversation. The movie kind of constantly does this where they make you think that they could put everybody into one box, and then they pull them out of it and give them like the multi-dimensional character aspects that we really want. And that's what makes the movie so good, is every character could be shoved into one box, and the movie constantly refuses to do that.
Oh yeah.
Linklater movies don't have villains. I feel like the villains of all his movies is just more like societal perception.
Time,
just like the time. But the boxes that society maybe wants to put you in, or like life, time in a way, having to grow up, have new responsibilities. That stuff is really what it goes with, and that's is the conflict here is Jack Black being confronted by his dreams ending. That's the villain, is not being able to succeed in his passion and not being able to move forward with his life in a way. Is the villain.
Absolutely. Zach, as a teacher, I think this is important to ask you this question. How on earth does Dewey not get arrested at the end of this movie?
Oh, he does not make it past day one. This definitely took me a long time. First of all, I know he told the kids don't tell. There's no way that these parents did not know on day one that they did shit. One of
those kids is gonna snitch. Not the black kids, but one of the white kids is gonna snitch.
It's definitely the white kid in the back who talks about liking burning stuff. He blabbed all over the place.
Fred is definitely going to drop a dime on you.
Yes, this is why I don't do movie days in my classroom, because I know a kid is going to rat me out to the parents. And so they know right away that he is doing nothing in that classroom in a school that we're supposed to understand is very strict and very rigid in how they want their curriculums done and how they want their behavior. This is not going away with it, because also do you have co-teachers? This school does not care about, or this movie does not care about the reality of the education. It just doesn't. Because if there would be co-planning, there would be another teacher helping out with the curriculum. Because you're not throwing a sub in there and say good fucking luck for the next 2 weeks. And not
even 2 weeks, like 2 months.
And if he's a known sub within the district, someone would know him.
Yeah, and also the principal would be like, your kids have not been given grades in a month. Where are the grades for your students?
They don't ask me that when I wait to the end of the quarter to submit any grades.
They would. Let's be real for a second. This school would make you submit those grades weekly. They would be all over you. Where is your paperwork? You're behind on your paperwork. The first time he walks into the administrative office and goes, "Can you make out my checks to cash?" They would call somebody and start digging into, because that is super sketchy that your employee wants all his checks paid to cash. That's not a thing that anyone allows. Yeah, but I think
I
that's
have
the
my
point.
school pay me in Bitcoin.
But so. I also think that kind of helps the show. But I also think that's maybe intentional, because it kind of shows that the education system is kind of a joke. It's very flawed, and there are a lot of teachers that just don't care. You included, Zach. But
Yeah, I think oh, rude. I am a fraud. I think it is very much a progressive teaching technique because it does, put a spotlight on the benefit that his, improv nature of teaching of, what, let's just share my passion and, do something that's going to take advantage of all your skills. That's really the magic of it as an educational program. Is it helped everyone go for their own interests and their own skills. Where really it is, I'm going to go teacher term here, but it's a really elaborate genius project. Genius project is often a school thing where kids, think about their own interests and try to create their own project. What do they want to make with their own interests? If you like wolves, you make a sketchbook of wolves and point out their anatomies or other things. And that's what it is. It takes their skills and they make an elaborate project.
Hey, Timmy, you like wolves? Give me a sketchbook.
Hey, I literally stole that from the YouTube video that talks about genius hour projects. That's the example they give. But like, there's like the kids like, you know what? I like electronics, and like, great, you do the lights. So they're taking their own interest and adapting it into, the final project. So it is like a very progressive teacher technique to, kind of self-guided inquiry-based learning in a way.
I also think though that Linklater just doesn't really care about this movie being realistic. This is supposed to be a little bit of a fantasy of like what would happen if a teacher got to make a band in a school. And I think intentionally he removes the trappings of like basic school procedure so that you can just kind of enjoy the experience. He doesn't care if you like, the point of the movie is not to sit there and go, man, I wonder what they were doing on these periods when he wasn't there. How did he hide? Like, the movie is like, it's supposed to be like a joke. It's supposed to be fun and lighthearted and not really trying to be school. Like, they even kind of ignore, like, he is so blatant about it sometimes. Like, the idea that like that the way that they've stopped anyone from hearing the rock and roll practice is they've put like cloths over the windows. Like, that was the lamest soundproofing experiment I've ever seen. Like, that noise would have been all over the building. Like, that would never have worked. But it's like, no one is supposed to. They want you as the audience to just engage in the enjoyment of watching these kids learn music and experience rock and kind of work with Jack Black. They don't want you to sit there and go, man, I wonder what the other teacher was doing at this moment, because that's not important to Linklater.
They did just enough explaining so you didn't have to worry about it. Just like, because you're otherwise, if they didn't put like cloths over, like, everyone's going to hear them, but they like, we put cloths. Don't worry. It's done.
Don't worry about it. We're good. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you just have to do a little bit so that you can show them you did the basic steps. But then, I mean, let's be real. No one wants to watch the movie where we actually understand the logistics of how they pull this off, because that would be the world's most boring movie.
I do. It would be the French neo-realist version of School of Rock on it.
Oh, it sounds like a drag right there. Let's talk about the kids in the classroom. They got what would have been the joke kid assortment from a 1980s movie, where it's like you got the Asian kid, like you got the kids are supposed to fit into boxes. And if this was a 1980s comedy, there would be a lot of stereotypes. But the way that they do in this movie is they play with it a little bit, in that they give you the stereotypical look of it, like a 1980s classroom, but then they don't make every character be the stereotype. Although there are definitely a couple stereotype moments where like the little redhead girl sings Annie, which is the most.
No, she wasn't redhead though. She was blonde.
She's blonde. I'm sorry.
She just looks like she could be Annie. She definitely
just looks like she's trying to be.
But you're like, look, if it came out, if I found out that she played Annie on Broadway, I believe it. But so I get you.
Yeah, she just looks very much like an orphan. We've never seen a more orphan-like kid.
She gets the parent night. Well, that night she has no parents.
Yeah. No, I think it's such a wonderful group of kids. And I don't think I was trying to do a little research on this. Most of them didn't have careers, which is, I guess, not surprising, because a lot of times when you get an assortment of really good kid actors, a lot of them don't go on, besides Miranda Cosgrove. I mean, she obviously has like a pretty large career. But Zach, the kids in the classroom, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I do think we have a missed opportunity, since Jake last week introduced the art of ranking things on our episode. We should have ranked the kids top 5 students. Because I do want to specifically point out, like, Clarence is my man.
Is Clarence fancy? Is he fancy pants?
He's the pianist.
Lawrence.
What did I say? Clarence? Lawrence.
The Clarence.
Yeah,
who the fuck is Clarence?
I have notes. There's no Clarence. Lawrence. Anyways, Lawrence is like the guy, because he's just like, going with the flow with it all. And he gives like a couple very sincere laughs at some point. So when like Jack Black is encouraging him, like you're doing a great job, he just gives this very sincere laugh that is so much like how kids react when they are, feel like they're impressing or feel like the pride. And that was like the most touching like 1 second in a movie for me. And yeah, Lawrence is great. Because he doesn't do that much either.
So great. You didn't
so much. I add a C to his name.
I love Clarence. He's my man, Clarence.
Hey, let's not act like it isn't already canon that I know 0 character names.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's very impressive that I got like 60% of the letters correct.
But I think something that I think is done really well, and I know this time around. I mean, I always say when you're making movies, 2 things you never want to work with is animals and kids. Yeah. And Linklaters, they're like, you know what? Fuck that. Give me a whole class. And I think what works is like what we're kind of saying. Like these kids all feel like very real. They feel very natural. Like they feel very naturalistic. And I think that I like the way the script is structured and the fact that no line feels out of place. Like Zack would never say something Freddie would say. Fucking and the Annie kid, Blondie. Martha, she would never say something that Tamika would say. They all like the personalities of the kids are very like quickly identifiable. Like you can very clearly tell what most of them are about, and I think that's really well done. I like the little arcs kids have. Like I really like what they did with Tamika, because like I don't know what happened. Like, I just forgot how good a singer she was. Like when she first belted out to Jack Black, like my jaw really dropped. Like oh fuck, she really was good. God damn. But yeah, no, I think these kids are all. They're all really good actors. They're all really good in this movie. And they all make up like a really solid ensemble together.
I think what's important about what you said is as they, no line feels out of place or coming out of the wrong character. That's true. And it's also important to know that easily could become a bit. Like it's every line belongs to a character, but that's like all they have to them, but they never feel like bits. I mean, we already talked about how they're all well-rounded, but even though, of course, Freddie is Freddie, Cleddy, I don't know. Of course, he's gonna like say the jokes about burning shit, but that him being the like rebel rouser kid doesn't become a bit. Miranda Costco being the teacher's pet makes some jokes, but it doesn't really come a bit. It rounds it up enough.
I really do enjoy the scene. I really do enjoy the scene where like they're sticking it to the man. They're telling off Jack Black. Like all the insults got a huge laugh out of me. Like you, like especially a fan. Pants, like he's my favorite kid of the entire bunch. Where it's like,
yeah,
what pisses you off? You? No, we're not supposed to tell me off. You're tacky and I hate you. Okay, you skip class.
Fancy Pants is great though. Like when he's
hilarious,
demoing all the costumes for everyone, and they're just awful.
Yeah,
because they look exactly like what would happen if you let a 10-year-old try to create what they think is a rock band costume. And because they're 10, they just don't know what they're talking about. They don't really know style yet. And they just went really, 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 really loud. And it's just like, it's like painful to look at how loud it is.
It's like, even the 6 you're telling you to tone it down. Even the 6 you're telling you to tone it down. Just, come on.
They did get good follow through with that character too. The good payoff at the end when because he says, just do school uniforms. So he's so upset, like that's boring, and then he makes Jack back wear that short ass tiny uniform. Just like a great payoff to that joke.
Who wears short shorts? Jack Black wears short shorts.
Like, I'm surprised more of the parents didn't complain about the outfit Jack Black was wearing in that scene.
I mean, you can't have their kids cheer, but wearing those shorts, no.
Yeah, they already thought he was molesting them too, which I don't know if that joke works too much. But.
I think that's actually like kind of one of the most iconic lines of this entire movie.
Oh, I love that line. I didn't understand it when I was a kid, but watching this, like, oh god,
it's really good. Although it does again bring up the question: how on earth did he not get involved in 6 months worth of investigations just because he said one line?
I do think that he definitely goes to court after this, right? Like he's not let off the hook.
I mean he was.
They don't tell us.
He's got a business.
And he's got old kid there too.
You don't know what happens in between that. Like he still had to appear in court. Maybe he's doing community service.
All the kids are still there. So clearly, it's no bad blood.
Yeah, he should have a restraining order, really.
Probably, but
definitely not teaching anymore.
He taught him how to rock, so that's fine.
Yeah. So Jack Black is somebody I don't particularly love. Jack Black in movies. He's sort of okay to me. He's never like the best part of a movie. He absolutely kills in this, and I think Zack, you're the one who said this is like the role he was born to play. It's like the perfect combination of Jack Black's energy with like a little bit extra depth, and he's got more of a character to play, and he's got like the heart, and it is just like the perfect Jack Black movie. And he just kills it in this movie. It's honestly surprising as somebody who had seen other Jack Black movies and then saw this one was like, I don't particularly like Jack Black. And then seeing this, I was like, wow, Jack Black is amazing in this. It's kind of like the one role for him that I'm just like absolutely blown away by. And Zack, you said this was the role he was born to play.
Yeah, because he's really playing himself, especially early on in his like larger film roles. Kind of starring High Fidelity. Maybe I'm missing some before that as far as having a big part. He is like, this is easily the same character from High Fidelity that just gets to go into school in a lot of ways. The wanting to form a band, that's just Jack Black's persona. How he made his whole career, he was able to evolve, past that one to make him a leading man. But it's more like Richard Linklater, once they either intentionally wanted Jack Black or once they got him on board, they twerked that character enough to just have all his skills. The passion for music that Jack Black has is probably the most important thing that he brings into this. The over the top nature, which is like what kills the characters, band dreams, is that he's like hogging the stage and taking long guitar solos and stage diving. And that over the topness is just how we recognize Jack Black. It's everything that he is able to bring to screen. They're really able to make the focal point of this movie in a way that is not exaggerated or just comedic bit, but it seems part of who this character. Because we relate to the Jack Black, we know that this is like a real human, because we see a real human act like this all the time with himself. And just like the improv nature, when he's just like scatting and the musical comedy-ness of it that he gets to bring out is what he made his whole career of with Spinal Tap and that stuff as well. So
yeah, I mean, I will say I do believe this role is expressly written for Jack Black, as Mike White has written for Jack Black before. He wrote the script for Orange County, which he was in prior to this. So I feel like this was one that was always written with Jack in mind. And yeah, I actually do think Jack Black's very talented. I'm not as down on him as you are, but I think he's a very good actor. But I think that this is a role that it plays to his strengths. And honestly, I do think it's really special for him, because I don't think that there are a lot of other actors. I struggle to think of any actors at this time who could have made this role work. I struggle to think of any actors now who could make this role work, including the guy from the fucking Broadway show. But go ahead.
I think they would have had to make it different. They would have had to
probably, yeah.
This is just so much taking.
But yeah, I think that everything he brings this role is fantastic. I think his performance is great. I love his physicality in this. I think he's has like a Jim Carrey-esque quality to him, where like he's acting a lot with his face, and every time he does that, it's pretty funny. It plays to his ability as a musician, as a singer. There's just so much that Jack Black brings this role that I don't think a lot of actors could, despite the fact that I'm sure Russell Crowe tried at one point.
I mean, they're definitely casting Josh Gad in this today, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, I think the most important thing that that we relate with Jack Black that he's able to bring to this is the like innocence and purity with his relationship to music. That's, I think, one of the underrated important parts of this movie that makes it work out is that all his motivation between like forming the band with the kids and succeeding at the battle of the bands there's a pureness to it. He talks about, it's not about getting girls, it's not about finding fans and being famous and winning the competition. It's about the love of the music and giving great shows and sharing that love and passion. And that's what Jack Black is. I feel like as a human, is that someone that just wants to share his love of and passion, not really about having everyone adore him as much as this is who I am, and I hope you can get some joy out of this. And that's what the character does with Rock, and that's how he brings it to the kids.
Yeah, and I think you see
great
that
addition, I guess.
And I think what you see is that he really develops that with the kids after he kind of blows up his own spot with his original band, which I found it funny to notice that the lead singer of his original band is Adam Pascal.
Pascal.
Of course, the Roger from Rent and the Rent movie, and
who I just put together is basically the better Bryan Adams. After watching this, he's just Bryan Adams, but good.
I'm sure we're gonna get angry emails now from somebody. No, but you see that, like, you see in his original band that he is so obsessed with making it and achieving something that he loses sight of, like, his passion, as Zach was saying, for the rock and like the purity of the enjoyment of the music. And because of the kids, he really gets to get that purity back and just being like, no, it's not about anything more. It's just about loving the music and playing the music and performing. And that's what's important. And because of you kind of get to see him fall out of love with it, realize that he's fallen out of love with it, and then kind of regain it because of all these kids he gets to be around. So in some ways, like, he imparts all this under this knowledge about rock and roll and about like life, and even like they use a lot of the music performance scenes as like life lessons and ways for the kids to learn stuff outside of the actual music. But also he learns a lot from himself. Like, the kids allow him to fall in love with the music again, and like lose the kind of jaded sense, or like, I guess in some ways it's sort of jaded, and also sort of like he was just ridiculously arrogant and thought he was way cooler than he was with his original band, you know. Culminating into his failed stage dive, where he just basically comes off the stage and no one catches him because no one cares.
Also, look at that crowd. Why would you try to stage dive on that crowd?
Yes, it was a bad idea. It's like not many people there. Don't jump into a 10-person crowd. They're not paying attention to you.
I mentioned the Hate for No Vacancy, because I actually kind of like the two songs they had.
Oh, stop! So okay, we're gonna transition into my next. I think I want to talk about, but I do want to talk about stage dives are the most awkward things that ever happen. Like, I don't get it. You don't go anywhere. Any kind of crowd surfing, you're definitely getting your butt touched. I have crowd surfed before. It's not great, and I'm also like a large person, just like lanky, and my limbs are everywhere, so I'm just pretty hard to hold. There's just too much. I'm not heavy. It's just too much body, and wow. So I don't recommend it. No way they hold up Jack Black, but okay. Anyways,
I mean,
you're like,
it's one of those that many people at the end. Like, I feel like they can hold him up.
Jack Black is very compact. I feel like he'd be somewhat easy to stage dive as long as you get enough people under there. He's pretty compact. He'd be pretty easy to move around.
I go to a lot of concerts. I will say I don't go to a lot of harder rock concerts. I did go to like emo and pop punk bands in high school, and I've been to Warped Tour. So there is like crowd surfing crowds. But the problem is there's never like a consensus. There's never a good like 10 people by each other that all want to be part of this. Usually there's like a couple that don't. They fuck up the whole thing.
We're all gonna do this, right? Yeah. Fuck, I did my.
I don't really know if I must. It's like the same thing when you have like beach balls at concert. It gets to like one person like fuck this shit, and they knock it down. It's the same thing with crowd surfing. There's gonna be spoil sports. It's kind of like when you're like asked who wants to speak, and you're like, "Are you gonna do it? I'll do it if you don't do it." It's like, oh, if I have to, I'll push this guy across. But I do want to say, the bands at Battle of the Bands are all pieces of shit. Their whole idea of what rock music should be in 2003 is just horrible, and just like the most generic, dumbed down version of it. There's I'm trying to find the right form of this word. I'm going to say the idea of rock is very homogeneous. It's like only exists in hard rock form in this, and like the bands and the references that Jack Black has, I think it is where his own interest lies, and you know, his own style with Spinal Tap, but it is much more, you know, Led Zeppelin and all how the genres rose throughout there is some references to other. I guess I'm spoiling the conversation we're going to have later. There are some references to different modes of rock and where rock came from in a 5-second glance of the chalkboard, where he gives a great web of how music has evolved. And that is it. It's just an image. I definitely did pause it and read every band on there. And even that, like, only goes with the mainstream, which I guess for kids, but like ignores all of indie rock. When the 90s indie rock scene is like very influential with, like, I think actually because I feel like I saw an SO and I think it got cut off in the corner. But I think Sonic Youth was there maybe as an indie rock thing. But then like Pavement and Pixies, Built a Spell. These are all like important bands that this character would know. And like if you're going to give a full-fledged music of the evolution of rock, you have to include. And it just like ignores any kind of variation of music.
I feel like the Heart Sick song was there. You trying to like throw back to like 90s indie rock.
I feel like there's also a real attempt by the movie to be like, let's pick the most famous examples of everything so that as much of the audience as possible can engage with this, that you do not have to be a hardcore rock nerd to engage with this movie. I think there's like a very clear attempt by the movie to make it accessible for everyone.
And I think that would be fine if the Battle of the Bands was something different. But the Battle of Bands is all these like shitty ass Three Doors Down or Shine Down wannabe bands. And it's just that version of rock.
All one of them.
No, you see people around there and you can tell what kind of music they play by how they look. They all look exactly the same. There's no variation. Also, have you ever seen a Battle of the Bands? I never really been because you will have to pay me $1 million to go to Battle of the Bands because of this shit. I guess it is kind of like that, but it's like mostly high school bands anyways. So this isn't a really realistic version. Because the problem with music like this, it's similar with pop. You don't have like an underground pop scene. You don't have an underground shit rock scene. I call that shit rock. The stuff you'll hear in rock stations. That's what Shinedown is. They're shit rock. There's no underground scene of those because the people who are really into music and go to local concerts and underground things don't like that shit. So you're either big or you're playing things that no one cares about. So this Battle of the Bands is not. These bands do not exist and they don't deserve the attention.
But isn't the entire point of the Battle of the Bands that like they are supposed to be like we are supposed to sort of hate them, so that when the kids come on, they're like there's such a large gap between the School of Rock and everybody else, and then so when the School of Rock doesn't win, you're like out, like you are genuinely supposed to be like mad at them. They're like, how are you do this?
Everyone's like bullshit for that one fucking guy who's like, yeah.
That's the great. Actually,
I love that dude. I love that dude.
The one guy is celebrating the band that no one else
like him a lot.
It's a great. That is such a. But that's also so legit. There's always one person who's celebrating the really unpopular decision. Like anytime a group of friends are like, "What movie should we see?" and there's just like one person who's like, "I want to see the movie that no one else wants to see." Like there's always that one person in that.
I think it's more like every band has their like one super fan logo. He probably has been to like all their concerts. He probably like shows up randomly at their practices.
I wonder if you go back and like pause it at the beginning if he was at the scene at the opening.
Yeah. He was definitely like in high school with them, and he was like the grade below, and so he always looked upon them and like considered a friend when they ignored him. That's who this guy was.
And his entire identity is wrapped up in being a fan of this band that no one's ever heard of. And he also like when he is excited about them winning,
don't win. No way.
He's not self.
They did.
No, they do, but they don't in reality.
Sure.
There's no reason they've won it. And that's like honestly throws me out a little bit. I do hate. I think they should have just let School of Rock win because it doesn't make sense. Because also that song they performed in no way is like beating what School of Rock played. It's like a ballad that's kind of boring.
I don't think it's better.
Electric Show.
I don't think it's better than School of Rock, but I don't know why. I don't feel like a weird fascination with that song.
I don't even think they play that song. They're not going to play such a ballad. They're going to play something that has a little more energy and live during a competition.
Maybe, but hey, I mean, they did that song for one reason for long. It's for Spider's body rolls, which is all like that was an image that was like ingrained in my head, like burned in my head when I saw it. It's never gotten out.
I love that.
Should I dress up as him for Halloween?
I love the shirt that just covers the shoulders and the arm.
Yeah, like, where the fuck do you get that? Because I want one.
All the look terrible.
I wear mine every night to bed, so you can borrow it one day.
I want like the sleeve that like cover your shoulders and your arm. That's it.
This is when you know you're in for a bunch of shitty music. It's been like everyone's showing nipples. Like everyone in the band is showing nipples, and like this is not for.
It's like kind of a joke. The point is like, there's such a joke
not
on
the flannels.
Bad rock band is like they're all flash and style and no substance. Like they're trying so hard to like look cool and be like the big rock band.
It's not even like, good style. At least have some better.
I wanted to talk about Dewey's roommate and his girlfriend. So this is Mike White and Sarah Silverman, and I think they're just a really funny kind of side characters in his life. Mike White is kind of the friend that gets kind of screwed over constantly.
Kind of like Mike White in real life.
Basically, and then Sarah
Race that badly. Didn't he win Amazing Race?
Did he?
He was on multiple times. I don't know.
Good for him if he did.
And then Sarah Silverman is like the girlfriend that everybody hates having join the friend group. Where it's like the girl constantly pushes him to do stuff. He's like, no, you should do this. No, you should do this. Even though like he clearly doesn't want to do it the entire time. To be fair, I mean, like Dewey kind of just runs roughshod over him and is totally not pulling his own weight for the apartment he lives in. But I just think they're just really funny side characters that also like she's like kind of irritating, but they don't make her a complete caricature. Like they give her like you
I think they do. I would argue that she is the worst part of the movie and the closest to a real like villain they have. She gets no redemption or reality to it.
I mean, she gets comeuppance though. She gets comeuppance, which is I think
she gets comeuppance, but she's just there to be a confrontation. To be
she's a foil for Dewey, but you also kind of get it because he is basically living in an apartment, rent free, doing nothing, doesn't have a job, he is basically a loser.
Yeah. No, that part makes sense. They could have rounded her out as far as her relationship with Mike White, but they also make her equally over the top annoying to him as well and domineering in a way. You could have seen like a real connection between them that would then make sense for why she wanted to like stand up for him and defend. And she didn't have to be, obnoxious and rigid in every possible way, which is something Linklater avoids in everything he does. And this is just the one character that I feel like falls to that trap.
That's fair. Although it does, just sort of feels like the Sarah Silverman character.
Yeah, I think it's partially also Sarah Silverman, especially at that point, not a really great actress that early in her career, and isn't really able to add much dimension to it.
You're getting basically at the time where like Silverman was doing a lot of stand up, and people weren't super big fans of her, and it kind of plays what people don't like about Sarah Silverman, or what people didn't like about Sarah Silverman.
She's always been sort of decent at like kind of understanding that there is a group of people that don't like her and then playing into that.
Yeah.
Like this movie is kind of like her playing the annoying person. Like people are going to but in some ways she's self-aware enough to realize that people might come into this movie not liking Sarah Silverman to begin with. So why not let Sarah Silverman be the kind of annoying girlfriend who's constantly poking the boyfriend and being like, yeah, you should do something about the character that we end up liking the most.
Right. Fair.
Let us talk about Joan Cusack, who is wonderful. And as I was watching this movie, I texted Zach. It was like, Joan Cusack is awesome. We need more Joan Cusack.
We have Joan Cusack. She hasn't gone anywhere.
I texted you back, who does?
She's just wonderful. Joan Cusack is so good in this movie. From the weird, like sort of stern talking to that makes the children cry. That's like a really good. She's not even that mean to them. But like,
do you want a hug?
She's just very like she's just emotionally unavailable and like doesn't really get people's emotions at times. Like these kids get really sad because of things she said, and then she's like, "Do you want a hug?" And the kid is like, "No, I don't want to touch you. Please stay away from me." Or even like she just doesn't like the kids say, "Oh, you're the man," and she like completely misses the point of that. And then even to like the weird interactions with all the parents, where she has to deal with all the annoying parents, and she just walks out of the room, and then she comes back and she goes, "I'm sorry to tell you."
Is my nightmare. I would have cried in that parent scene. I would have cried.
Every single parent in that class is a total Karen. Every single one of them. Every single one of them had a total.
Even the ones that are white.
Look.
Oh, 100%.
Even the black ones.
Yeah, like, no, you cannot play rock and roll. You have to practice the piano.
That is like truly stereotypical.
Zach's dad
that could not be done today.
Zach's dad was a total like, I want to talk to your supervisor guy.
Yeah, that guy definitely voted for Trump. Lucas's favorite thing to do: talk about characters who voted for Trump.
I literally
all of these parents. They're clearly all the 1%.
Yeah. Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump for sure.
But Joan Cusack does have just like, I think she has some of the best laughs in the movie because she does have just such a great comedic touch that even when her character is being gruff and annoying, just I think, as you said, the character doesn't like realize she's being like this, and that comes off in every scene. And just the kind of awkwardness of her social skills coming off in different instances pays off. Because I actually do love when Spider's hating her and she just like doesn't know how to handle it or like what is happening.
Yeah, that's funny.
Near the end of the concert, and she's has great and sincere reactions to everything happening. That makes it
like her response to him hitting I'm a principal. Like that's her response.
You the band?
I had a false memory of the Fleetwood Mac scene. I was ready for her from when I saw it as a teenager. I thought she was like on the table, like close to blackout drunk, like causing a ruckus and singing Fleetwood Mac, and that's not all what it is. It's much more, subtle to that, but she's still doing just like hand thing, like she's playing patty cake while singing Fleetwood Mac, and it's just so funny to me. She's like clapping her hands.
She's like a great physical sense of you. She's really good with physical comedy where she just makes her body she makes it look like she doesn't understand her own body. Like she's not like inside her own body. Almost like a marionette is like moving her. Like she's just so weird and awkward in moments. Like the way she walks is like, she's just really good at playing this very awkward, weird, like she's, as much as she is awkward emotionally and socially with everyone, she is awkward physically. And just like the combination of all of that together, like even the way she offers a hug is weird. Like she doesn't really offer it. Like the arms are too low. And like, it's like, she doesn't understand. Like there's like this constant like lack of understanding on her character's part of like how to talk to people, how to connect with people, how to even like interact with them. Like she doesn't seem to know anything. She's just fantastic. And Joan Cusack has been doing this for years, since the 90s. She's just every time she kills it. I will say I love her in The Addams Family Values. I think she is
she's awesome in that movie.
She just does this in every movie, and we all stand Joan Cusack. She's fantastic.
And it is very much a like real kind of teacher. Like she is playing a real person. I am with these people every day, to where you like your intentions are so pure and you really think you're doing a great job for kids. You just want to bring them the best education, but like you probably also were pretty dorky through school and you don't have social skills and you're kind of like try hard, like Miranda Cosgrove, except she's a lot more, I think, cunning than Joan Cusack's character probably could ever be. But if you take away that aspect, that's who she would become. Someone who just thinks the rules are very important and very rigid, and you find value in that, and you can't really have any leeway for anything else, and you don't understand the importance of that. So even though you think you're doing the best things for these kids, you're so over the top rigid, they don't know how to relate to you. It kind of creates a wall, and that's just like a real teacher personality that you come across.
I've like known this person as like bosses at places I've worked where like they legitimately think like there's like a disconnect between them, what they think the world is and what it actually is. Like they'll think people like them and people like can't stand them, or like they're like one of these, like they think the right way to do everything is to follow to read the manual and follow it to the letter. And it's like that interesting thing that occurs with some people where like they don't have they can't actually understand anything in the way that like they don't understand the complexity of it. They can't like read like a set of ways of doing things and like understand how to actually like read that, assimilate it, and then put it out towards the world. They literally just read it and regurgitate it. Like they don't have any ability to like think about it or even like adapt it to the real world. They just are literally the instruction manual as a human being. And she's just so good at playing that. And it's also it works because I feel like a lot of us have met people like that, and you're just like, oh my God, I know that person. They just are totally unaware of anything around them and don't understand like anything.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot what she brings to it. I think she recognizes this in people she's known and is able to breathe the comedic aspect out of it.
Absolutely. Chance, what are your final thoughts on School of Rock?
Final thoughts about School of Rock. I think that it's a movie that's had a lot of resonation for me, because I don't remember watching it, because I remember watching it, like seeing promos for it, like it was like showing on like Disney Channel or like Nickelodeon or something when I was a kid, and I'm like, oh wow, what is this movie any good? And my aunt had DVD, and I watched it, and I just started watching it like religiously, and it really opened a lot of doors for me as far as like rock music. And I actually started playing instruments after I saw this movie that got me wanting to play music. So yeah, that was cool. So I think Black is phenomenal in the role. I think Richard Linklater does a great job with the direction, especially like when he directs something that's not quite his material. Because I feel he writes most things he directs, and this is one of the few where he didn't do that. So I feel like he does a great job handling other people's work. I also think Mike White shines both as an actor. I love how understated he is, and as a writer, I think he does a great job. I don't think he gets no credit for it. I think that his personal touch for this film is just absolutely perfect. Like I said, I think it's incredibly watchable. I can pop this on anytime and watch it and have a good time. And yeah, it's got an absolutely. It really like understands the idea and what makes rock music so special. And I think it's really great, and I love this movie. I think it's fantastic.
Zach, what are your thoughts on School of Rock?
So I love this when I was a kid, and for some reason I just haven't returned to it, and I feel like I've wasted 15 years forgetting what I like it. And I actually doubted myself through the beginning, because I think it does kind of start a little slow. You get lost Sarah Silverman. I said she's already my problem in the movie right at the beginning. It really takes, once he's working with the kids, you find what the movie's doing, and it's pulls you right in. It's just lovely fun. I would say we wanted to do like a nice core month, and I think this is low key a nice core movie in a way. Even though Jack Black's annoying and he's over the top, but I think that the general like thematic string of this movie is that music is about joy and passion. I think that's just about happiness, about joy, about passion, about sharing it with people, about bringing the best sides out of each other. It can all be nice core in a way. It just makes you feel happy and pleasant, by the end.
Absolutely. I think that I was thinking about this movie. This movie got into culture so much quicker than most other movies do. Like, this movie was being referenced by other movies 2 years later. There's a joke in 40-Year-Old Virgin about a porn parody that is related to School of Rock. And I feel like it doesn't happen that often. Like, it usually takes quite a while for movies to become referenced in other culture and movies. Like, I think it took like Harry Potter to like the late 2000s, early 2010s to even get the movies starting to get referenced in other work. And this movie just like, for a movie that is starring Jack Black and made by Richard Linklater, has such a massive place in like everybody's pop culture experience. Like, this movie is seen by so many people, and it's like even among people you would not have think of as Linklater fans or cinephiles or people who like are more likely to delve outside the mainstream of blockbusters. Like, this movie has such a grasp over so many different people in a way that is really impressive, and it makes sense. I started watching this movie the other night, and I paused it at one point to like go get water or something, and I was 45 minutes into the movie. Like, it had just flown by. Like, you don't realize this movie. Like, you don't think about it. Like, sometimes you're watching a movie and you're like, oh my god, I'm 15 minutes in. Like, make it stop. Like, sometimes you have movies and they're like, it's rough to get through it. You just get stuck watching them. This movie just flies by. It is so enjoyable. Jack Black is so engaging. He takes over, and I think it's pretty clear that he was allowed to just kind of make up a lot of those scenes. Like, he's just
I do believe a lot of his scenes were just like on the cuff, which is great. Like,
take a guitar and do some stuff, and like, it's so good. It's so good. The music is really good in it. As we will know from some of these episodes, I am not the biggest music person. A lot of this music in this movie, I do really love. I love the inclusion of a Clash song in there. Big Clash fan. But yeah, this movie is just, it's fantastic. It's so much fun to watch. You feel good watching it. You never feel disappointed by watching it. And it is kind of like a movie that you could show to almost anyone. And I feel like that they would at least enjoy it, if not love the movie themselves. Let us move on to our second segment, which is we're going to talk about specifically the music of the bands in these movies. Mr. Zack Ford, why don't you talk about the influences of the School of Rock? Obviously, there's like 9 billion, but you can focus on a couple of them.
Yeah, the history of rock. I mean, I definitely kind of already blew everything I had to say about this earlier. I would say, as far as the music that they're able to perform, I think because they are, pretty strong musicians, especially for their age, but they're still kind of new as a band. So there is kind of a simplified quality of the rock that's very like Ramones-esque in a way, as far as the songs they're able to sing. I think the instrumentations are a little stronger than that, but like lyrically and melodically, it's a little more like early punch garage rock. Also, he's just like writing a blues song. Zack just like wrote a blues song, and they just put rock music to it. And I would say the Battle of the Bands things, where my problem is much more how rock evolved from the worst era of rock, 80s. There's some great bands in the 80s, and like Bruce Springsteen was still doing good stuff then. But when like hair metal took over, and when it's like Motley Crue and Def Leppard.
Come on, don't be dissing on Poison. Don't be dissing on Poison.
That is what these bands evolved from. Their idea of what Battle of the Bands is evolved from Motley Crue, and that's what shit rock is where that came from, and that's like kind of where the inspiration is. I feel like Jack Black does have like a great admiration for that era of music. I think just because of the like theatrical qualities of it more than the music, I feel like that's where it comes from, and I think that helped. That definitely inspires his performance as a musician, his musicianship.
Absolutely. So let's ask the basic question. If School of Rock put on a concert, would you go? Would you pay concert level prices to watch this band perform?
Wait, is it the kids? Is it like the Commitments where they toured with the actors?
Or it is the kids. It is the band that performs on stage at the end of this movie.
I live in the world, and they're just a random school performing.
You live in a world where this school performs. This band, the exact band at the end, with the exact people that performs, do you pay for that band?
Have they been on late night television shows saying, look at this cool band?
No.
Kids.
It's an indie.
Were they on Ellen?
They probably were on Ellen, let's be honest.
Jack Black, I'm willing to bet we can go find the Jack Black on Ellen appearance for this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Jack Black was probably in everything for this movie. If I can only imagine.
I mean, yeah. When he's the guy you're.
No, they were selling out Marietta Cosgrove. Marietta Cosgrove talking David Letterman.
We're gonna get those Drake. We're gonna get those Drake and Josh fans. No, wait, Drake and Josh was not at that point, so she didn't have fans.
I don't think. I believe this.
No, that was the thing. She was older in this than she was beginning of Drake and Josh, for sure, right?
All right, you guys. Chance, what do you think about the music used in this movie and the influences for the band?
Oh, I love the music used in this movie. Like a lot of these have come to be my favorite songs of all time. I always remember the Bonzo Goes to Bitburg montage, where it's just like the montage like classic rock and talking about so much about everything. I love that Ramones song. But yeah, I do think that he has a great job of capturing music from like different walks, different styles, and even the ones they don't say. Like, that's how I discovered Yes, and that's how I discovered Rush, but like it got me to really listen to a lot of things. But wait, what?
I said poor guy. Discovered. That's how you discovered Yes.
I like Yes. Yes is good. Oh no, especially like the song you referenced, like Roundabout. The keyboard solo on that is actually like legitimately great. But I do think that he does a great job at putting together different eras of rock and roll together. And yeah, you can clearly see that, like when you listen to that final song, you can clearly see the influence of like different styles and different eras of rock and roll. I think it's, if you had to point to like one specifically, it'd probably be the Ramones, but I do think that it's a great mixture of like everything that he was talking about the entire movie.
Absolutely. I was looking at this soundtrack. This must have cost them a fortune to get all these songs.
Like I remember there's a bonus feature on the DVD for getting the Immigrant song. That was a point where like Led Zeppelin was like very particular about how they left out their music. So what they did was like Linklaters, like it was like, hey Jack, just beg them. It's like, okay, sure. And like what they did was, it was when they were shooting the final concert sequence, they had like Jack Black like just plead to Led Zeppelin with the crowd behind them. It was like, oh wow. So I guess and it helped, and they got the songs. So, yeah, that was cool.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean that's a fun way to get it, and kind of amazing, because I don't think they would have been able to afford to pay all these people have all this different music in the movie, because this is like
they definitely avoided the Beatles. Not going to pay for that rights.
They did
only I Am Sam has that money.
Well, we'll leave you for Danny Boyle for a couple years.
Why do we keep mentioning yesterday? Why do we keep mentioning yesterday?
It has made like eight of our episodes.
Oh, really?
I believe we've talked about yesterday like 2 to 3 different episodes.
I feel like I'm making a lot of yesterday jokes.
Oh,
We talk about Ed. We do a lot of Ed Sheeran in yesterday on the one.
You have to talk about that movie at some point. Now, like it's set in stone. You have to talk about it eventually.
I've never seen it, so I don't know.
Now you do. Well, now you have to.
But I do my
We're gonna
Danny
do Let's Piss Zack Off month, and we'll do Yesterday and Deadpool and Cars 3, and it'll be a great.
I don't want to watch all those movies though.
I'll never forget your rant on Cars 3. It's like makes no goddamn sense. They changed different cars. It's bullshit.
Rules are just like Joan Cusack. Rules are important. And Miranda Cosgrove. Rules matter. Gold stars matter. Let's not just give them out willy-nilly.
I will have to say, the ultra grade fiend that I am was a little bit sad to watch him get rid of the idea of gold stars. I
mean, I liked it because the black kid had like 6 black dots. It was like, what are you doing? What's going on here?
That'd be highly frowned upon in the year 2020.
Like, wait a minute, why does he got more black dots than anybody else?
The black kid has all the demerits, and the white kids don't.
The white kids don't. This is like some fucking.
There's no way that like fuckface on the drugs did not have the most demerits, right? Like that kid's like burning shit in the back of the classroom.
He definitely like lit a fire in the bathroom at some point.
Absolutely.
He doesn't. I mean, the only reason he doesn't have demerits is because he legitimately got suspended. They had to go to the level above the demerits for him.
Black dots aren't working. What do we do now?
It doesn't work at all. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not. Zack picks Zack off month. We'll have to figure that out. Zack, you never answered the question. Would you pay to see this band?
Oh.
As a final thought.
My answer is no. I said I'm not going to hey, these kids, they play good music. I was like, hey, there's like a fucking Tune Yards concert tonight. I can't go see this band. There's better things to do.
Chance, would you see this band in concert?
Maybe. I mean, I think they're clearly talented.
I will see them if like they are this is the band from School of Rock and it's their own kids. Sure.
Yeah. I feel like this is the type of band that you're gonna like for a couple songs, but
they're
please don't play a long set. Don't try to give us 6 tracks. We know you don't have it. You have a couple songs. You should play your couple songs and you should get up. You should open for somebody else. That's like the best way for this band to function.
That's the real reason I won't see them is because I'm like anti-novelty music unless you're a child, and they just are a novel band. I don't see purpose beyond it. Sorry, Brooklyn Vale. I know your main genre is novelty bullshit. But...
Zack keeps picking fights. Zack's just picking fights these days. Any final thoughts on the band, the School of Rock?
I mean, as far as like greatest movie bands of all time, I think you can definitely make a case for them being like top 15, top 10. I think they're definitely up there. I think that the kids are all clearly talented, and that's attributed to them being like actual musicians in real life. I think that's definitely something they considered when casting these kids. And
I think they definitely grow up and become cooler musicians. Because if you're into like that shit when you're younger, you're gonna get too better. You're gonna get too cool for it as you grow up later and discover more music.
I
think Zack definitely becomes like a pretty strong songwriter.
Oh yeah, as opposed to Zack in real life, where look him up if you don't know. But it's beautifully ironic what happened to him as an adult. But
I have no idea what happened. You can share with me off screen.
We'll look this up after the podcast. Zack, do you have any final thoughts on the band?
No, I already did it. You asked me my final thoughts
like 8 times.
I'm like, together.
I will say, one final thought before we close this out is, again, and this is the 3rd episode in a row we've talked about this, when you're making movies about bands, getting people who are actually musicians is huge. Now, and getting people who can play is really important. We talked about this in the commitments. We talked about this in Once. Getting people who know how to sing, who know how to perform, is really, really, really valuable, and is something that sometimes Hollywood doesn't do, and is a lot of the reason why sometimes they make musicals or music movies that don't work is because you just try to get people. You think that you can fake it, and I'm sorry to tell you this: you can't fake music. You either know how to do it or you don't, and it's pretty cut and dry like that. So I appreciate that in some of the best movies that they took the effort to go out there and find the people who know how to play the music and sing the songs. With that being said, I want to thank Chance Ellison for coming on the show, guesting today. We would love to have you back. This is a fantastic episode. Thank you to Zack, who is now ignoring me and looking at his phone. Thank you, Zack. Finally called me out during the episode. You call me out like every other episode for nothing, and now I'm calling you out for literally ignoring us in the middle of the episode.
Sorry that I have friends. No, I don't. I'm actually putting in addresses for Christmas cards. Do you want one?
Zack, sure, why not? Send me one. I'll give you my episode. With that being said, thank you to everyone who listened. Come back next week where we will be talking about The Music Man in the fourth and final week of our Making a Band month. A very, 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 very different take on a band than the ones we've covered so far.
Yeah.
It's not Irish.
I don't know why I let you have a choice.
It is not modern. It is classic musical. We will be discussing a classic musical next week. We will see you right then.